Yeah, that's the way I like it. I don't want to be predictable. I'm an enigma. I've been getting asked a couple of questions in relation to should I own a home, should I rent a home. There's a couple of things online that I've seen whereby differences of opinion around renting versus owning. My personal preference is to own a home, but there are some disadvantages and some advantages of both, so we thought we would outline a few. Renting, first of all, the negatives. Couple that we came up with, we tried to stick to 3 each because otherwise we could write huge long lists and we'd waste loads of your time. Landlords could sell the property at any point in time. You've got no control over how long you're going to be in the property other than the fact that you have a tenancy agreement. But once you get to the end of that tenancy agreement, then you can be shipped out and the property could be sold from underneath your feet. Equally, normally within a tenancy agreement, you have a get out clause, which is something like 3 months notice or something like that. So that could also be a bit of a stressful time because all of a sudden your landlord's saying you've got to get out of the property and there's nothing that ultimately you can do about it other than agree to it. I feel it's a waste of money because you're paying off someone else's mortgage. And the only actual caveat to that is the fact if you don't own another property. And I understand that mortgages can be difficult to achieve. You need to have the right level of income. So for some, it is the most suitable solution because, don't get me wrong, if I couldn't afford to have a mortgage, I'd rather rent somewhere than actually live at home. Not that I don't love my parents, but just that I want my own personal space. But it is a waste of money because you're committing and paying someone else's mortgage. Equally, doesn't bother me, no pets, don't have pets, I choose the children option, don't want both. But you can't personalise the property either. For a lot of people who do have pets, who do like cats, I've got a mate of mine who's got 3 cats, you can't do any personalisation, you can't paint it, you can't decorate it. Some landlords do allow you to do that with their say-so, but also, as I experienced when I left my old tenanted office, you have to put it back to how it was when you arrived. So there could be pros and cons. So if you do want to personalise, then do look into that with your landlord. But there isn't that free reign and flexibility that you have when you own your own home. Some of the pluses, however, though, you don't have any costs to repair the house. It's not your responsibility. If your dishwasher breaks, if your boiler breaks, if your heating breaks, you are completely covered and it's your landlord's responsibility to get somebody around and get that stuff sorted out. You can move at will, particularly if it's your job and you're perhaps a contractor. You're not tied to one location or one particular position. You can up sticks and go to somewhere else that potentially suits you. And I've actually got a client at the moment that owns a home in the middle of London but has been given an opportunity in Milton Keynes. And we're talking about renting out the property in London and going to live in Milton Keynes and renting for a period of time to make sure they like their new area before they sell the house and decide to buy somewhere in Milton Keynes. So there are pros and cons. Another one is money to invest. There is a guy called Robert Kiyosaki and his belief is that you shouldn't own your own home. The reason for that, and equally Grant Cardone is another one as well, and I've had numerous debates with people who have read their books. But ultimately, the theory is that you don't own your own home, you rent the dream home because you don't have to prove any income to get it. You can rent something for millions and it's going to cost you a small percentage of the actual mortgage amount. And the money that you would have tied up as equity within the house, you can then use to invest in property. And actually, if you've got several other assets, 2 or 3 other buy-to-lets or 2 or 3 other investment properties that are generating you an income, they could actually pay for the rent on your dream home. And that would be one of the advantages of being able to rent is you don't have all your cash or your capital tied up in a property. It enables you to rent where you want or live where you want and still own a property as well. And that's my caveat for renting. If you rent somewhere, try and at least own a property as well. And particularly if you want to become a property investor, a new mortgage is really much easier to achieve if you own a home or a property of some description. So now the owning of a home. The difficulty is, as I kind of covered this off in the previous one really, your money is all tied up within the asset, it's not doing anything for you. You know, you're tied down to that home, you're tied down to that location, you haven't got the ease and free reign of movement. For someone who loves their home like me, perfect. I don't want to be moving all the time. My house that I bought in 2015 is my 10 to 15 year home. Others like to move around, like to travel, change location regularly. You know, I've got friends of mine who have moved house 3 times in 3 years, I think, and they're quite happy doing that with their 2 children. Suits them. Couldn't imagine the stress at all, to be fair. House values. By owning your home, particularly like I bought my first flat in 2006, I bought it just before the crash, and the £200,000 flat that I purchased immediately within a couple of months was worth about 170,000, maybe even 160 at one point. So I actually owed more than what the property was worth, and all I could do was just sit on it and bide my time and wait for the market to improve, which it now has done. And you know, we're now way better than we were back in 2006, 2009 sort of period of credit crunch and issues that the UK economy had. But that's one of the things you've got to take into account with house values, is it's your liability. The pros of owning your home: you have safety, you have security, it's your home. You know that when you drive up to that house, it is yours. Equally, you're going to benefit from the asset appreciation, i.e. the house goes up in value. You know, particularly back in 2006, I was looking the other day, and a £200,000 flat is now worth 250. If you owned a property in 2011, and when we moved in 2015, our house had gone up about £100,000. That was more luck and judgment. We didn't actually buy it with the intention of that happening, it's just the market that actually did it. So you do gain from the benefits and the changes in markets and the ebbs and flows of property prices. Finally, you've got the opportunity to do what you want with the property. You can actually add significant amounts to the home if you buy the right place, if you buy something that's a dump. You know, you almost want to wipe your feet on the way out rather than on the way in. You can refurb that, you can improve that, you can add a bedroom, you can put an extension on, you can increase the value of the house by going up in the loft, changing the kitchen, changing the windows. There's 1,000,001 things you can do to a house, but you do have that flexibility when you own it, and it is you that is going to be gaining from the increase in the property value. So that's just a little bit of information on renting your home versus owning your home.
Please do get in contact with my team, activebrokers.co.uk.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next video.